How was The Empire Strikes Back in theaters today?
Oh, it was absolutely beautiful to go and see. Odeon is one of the big cinema chains we have in the UK. They've been doing this thing where they're resharing all the Star Wars films. Either they're doing all 10 of the main films, so the three different trilogies plus Rogue One. They're doing it for a week-long period over like 10 weeks. Or last weekend, they did show the prequels all in one day, and then Rogue One and the original trilogy all in one day. So because just like you, I've got a newborn, so I'm not really allowed out of the house for long periods of time.
Yeah.
So I've just been doing it week by week because Revenge of the Sith and the original trilogy are the only Star Wars films I've never got to see in the cinema for either because I wasn't born yet or just was working at the time. So
Yeah.
so I've done Revenge of the Sith, I've done A New Hope. Today was Empire Strikes Back. Saturday is Return of the Jedi, and then I've completed the set. All 11 Star Wars films would have been seen in the cinema, but Empire Strikes Back, obviously, this is probably number 2 on my list for all-time Star Wars films in my rankings. It was number 1 for a long time, but I think as we just discussed previously, over time, Revenge of the Sith is overtaking that to the number 1 spot. But still, to get to see that, and it hits a little bit different now as well with the passing of James Earl Jones.
Absolutely.
So you're sitting there and soaking in his voice as Vader, and obviously all the epic moments of Empire Strikes Back, the Hoth battle, obviously getting to see Boba Fett on screen properly. I know they sort of ushered him in the remastered editions into A New Hope, but getting to see him properly here. The introduction of Brando Calrissian, and obviously, I am your father. So beautiful to see it on the big screen. It's been a joy to see them. I know that last year they did some viewings at only some of like the big cities in the UK for the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. So I didn't get to see that then because it was, like I said, it was only like a handful of cities that did it in and nowhere close to me. So now that it's in every cinema of this chain, it's been beautiful to go and watch. Today was no exception. It was great.
Oh man, I bet. See, and that makes me wish that I could go see them because I haven't seen 4, 5, and 6 in theater. Obviously, I wasn't even a thought yet. My dad was just born when those came out. So to kind of think about just a few months ago, I was able to see Phantom Menace in theater, which that was one of the first movies that I was ever taken to, like in a theater. So that was really cool to actually go and see it on the big screen. I do remember parts of Attack of the Clones and of course Revenge of the Sith, like we've talked about before. But I noticed you said 10 films. Did they leave your favorite film of the entire Star Wars saga, the Han Solo movie, out?
Thankfully, yes. I guess because Rogue One kind of ties directly into the original trilogy. It's literally like the film ends an hour before the start of A New Hope, so they kind of included that, and they had no reason to include Solo because why would you? So yes, thankfully they didn't show. I mean, not that I would have gone and seen it anyway because I saw it in the bloody cinema. What a waste of that time that was. So, but yes, they didn't include in that, but they did. They have been doing every other film. I won't go and see the sequels because I saw them all in the cinemas, literally on release day. I saw multiple viewings of them, to be fair, when they got released, and I've watched them a bunch of times since. Obviously, I've got them on Blu-ray, got them on Disney Plus, so I'm not going to be going to see the sequels. I just wanted to get the Revenge of the Sith and the original trilogy done so I could say, completed it, mate, done the set.
Yeah. And that's what's really, really nice about it is because you feel like you're going back in time to where obviously you couldn't before. And when a lot of older people tell me, when Star Wars first came out, seeing A New Hope in theaters, it was just like, we're starting in the middle of a story, obviously. And they didn't know what was next, if there was going to be like a part 5, because a lot of people obviously were so confused why it was started with episode 4 in the title card. So I mean,
well, it didn't originally. Originally, it was just Star Wars. It was only later. I think it was only a couple of years later that George Lucas went back and renamed it Episode 4.
Oh, okay.
So when it first got released in 1977, it was just Star Wars. So
Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
And even to add that on top of it, it's just kind of so weird to even go back and look and just see like, oh, they've added, this is part 4, like where's the rest of the story? Usually things are done chronologically, but at the same time, like we've said before, I remember you're telling me like the machete list to go through, certain and different ways to watch Star Wars. But I don't know. I always have some regret when I showed my wife all of them. She had seen the original trilogy the most because my sister-in-law, her big sister's the Star Wars fan, and she's watched the original trilogy the most. But when I reintroduced it to Lindsay, it was okay. We're starting with Phantom Menace, and we're going each one, and then we went back, watched Rogue One, watched Solo, and so yeah, it's I kind of have some regret that I didn't show her 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and then 7, 8, 9. But one thing I will add to this: no tears were ever shed from episode 1 to 6 until Kylo Ren kills Han Solo. Then she started crying. How crazy!
Why are you still married?
I was just like, oh my god! And she was so mad at me, like, why didn't you tell me this was happening? And I was like, I didn't want to spoil it for you.
She didn't cry when Anakin turned and the Jedi were all killed. Jesus,
it was more of a just complete shock, and I feel like she had already known, Anakin going to Darth Vader, dark deeds, all of that. I can give her the benefit of the doubt there, but I was so surprised that it was Han Solo that took her out, because for me, it's just like when I think of Harrison Ford and Han Solo, clearly he doesn't really care for Star Wars too much. And also I just kind of think it's because he wasn't the main character. I don't know. But obviously he loves the Indiana Jones trilogy and he is, the main character. So I can understand that in ways, but I mean, Han Solo definitely has a place in my heart, but I don't know. It was different.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Harrison Ford, it was because obviously after episode 5, he had said that he wanted the character to be killed off. He didn't really want to have to come back for it. So I think part of the condition that he had to come back for episode 7 was that he gets killed off in there. Yeah. So he comes back, does his part as Han Solo for the passing the baton on for the sequel trilogy, and then the character's off. So obviously, he had a nice little cameo in episode 9, which I wasn't expecting, didn't know was happening, and that was really touching, to be fair. But it's interesting when you talk about like the order, because we've talked previously about what order do you show these films to people in, and talked about do you do it in release order, chronological order, machete order. If anyone doesn't know what the machete order is, by the way, I think we should just enlighten them. So it's where you watch episodes 4 and 5, then go back and watch episodes 1, 2, and then watch episode 6, then watch episode 3. And then you can fill in the rest with Rogue One and the sequels and stuff like that. But it's about doing it in the order so none of the surprises are technically ruined for you. So you get to watch the episodes 4 and 5 and the whole thing about Vader saying to Luke that he's his father and him not sort of being sure about it or believing him. And you're like, no, he must be lying to him. And then going back and watching the prequels and seeing how that happened and the fact that Anakin does turn into Vader and he is the father. And then seeing how that all then concludes. I'm to double check actually, it might be the fact that I think a lot of people actually cut off episode 1. It might be episode 4 and 5, and you go back and watch 2 and 3, and then to see how it concludes then with Anakin turning at the end and saving Luke. But I think because it's so rare nowadays to find an adult who hasn't watched Star Wars or doesn't know any of the secrets, so it's such a big thing that Vader is Luke's dad, that it's spoiled for even non-Star Wars fans. So to be able to sit down with someone and go, okay, you've never seen Star Wars, you don't know any of the secrets from it, or someone calls him Dark Vader, and I'm like, oh my god, don't let me slap you before we even started. But get to watch it in order, and it's something that we're going to have to actually deal with. Is at what point with our kids do we sit down with them and start showing them Star Wars and go, this is what order do you want them to watch it in? Because at the end of the day, you want them to have that surprise that you did growing up in terms of they're not going to know the secrets of Star Wars. So what age are they going to understand it? And because I see various TikTok videos and online videos of people showing their kids that the whole "I am your father" moment, and if they're just about old enough to grasp the whole concept, so that's something we're going to have to wrestle with soon enough. Is like, what age do we start showing our kids Star Wars? Because technically she's seen some Star Wars already, but she just doesn't know that she's watched Star Wars.
Yeah. Yep. The night my son was born, Lindsay hates Solo, by the way, too. So Solo was actually on TNT in the hospital.
Slightly forgiven for not crying at Star Wars.
Right. And I actually fell asleep. That was my first time getting a nap after he was born. And she was just like, that was the worst thing. I had to sit through, hold him, and watch Solo, and it's just the remote was out the way, so there wasn't too much she could do at that time. But oh yeah, good times. I know it's going to be a really interesting thing to show him. Like, do I show him 1, 2, and 3 first? Do we go 4, 5, 6? I do feel the guilt, like I said, so we're probably going to lean more towards the 4, 5, 6, and then go back, see how Darth Vader was once Anakin Skywalker, the entire tale that Obi-Wan told young Luke Skywalker. He was killed by a Sith, and here's the outcome. So I think that'll be pretty interesting. And then the sequels, obviously, we'll see what kind of love they get in a few years. I feel like it's starting to swing back around a little bit, but yeah, maybe by the time he understands it, grasps it, it could be like a legendary films. Who knows?
So I think with my little one, by the time she's able to talk, she's going to be like, what's all this collection you've got? What's all these things you keep dressing me up in? And I'm like, yeah, you're not old enough to really grasp and understand it yet. So you still got to wait a little bit before you can really watch it and take it in. And I'm going to be happy enough that you're understanding it without having to pause it every 30 seconds to explain what's going on. Which I would do for an adult as well, to be fair. I'd be like, people that are going to ask me questions, and I'm like, okay, let me just pause it and just give you like 10 minutes of backstory to this particular point. So I've just got to cover the Clone Wars and some Rebels, and then we can go on to it. And plus this novel, I've got to tell you a little bit about what happened as well. And so
I know those are always the holes for me, is the novels, because I don't read much of them. Dark Disciple, obviously, being one of my favorites and the only one I've read. But it's one of those things where it's kind of, there's an Instagram post that I've seen multiple times, and it's like, when it's like a DM, it's like a message, like a little inbox, and someone's like, please, like, do you know anything about this movie? And it's the Revenge of the Sith movie poster, and it says yes, and then it's like a 6 hour 2 minute 38-second voice memo, and it's like, dude, we could, all of us as fans could easily do that, and you can go in so many different directions just talking about how great that film is, leading up to it, backstories, things that happen during, and then it's just, I felt that one deep down.
Although I do get annoyed with Disney Plus and the synopsis that they put on for each film on Disney Plus, because they episode 3 they ruin it straight away. You just got to read the synopsis and the film's been ruined, because it's like, Anakin has his final transition into Darth Vader as he falls to the dark side, or something like along those lines. I'm like, cool. So if you've not actually seen it and you weren't actually 100% sure about what happens, Disney Plus, you just spoiled it for everyone. So thanks for that.
So I don't need to watch it. Okay, cool, got it.
Yeah.
Or like,
so
even,
he wasn't lying. He is his dad. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Even like episode 2, I noticed it's like, this story entails the story of Padme and Anakin falling in love. And it's like, nice. So you want to kind of throw out the biggest part, the synopsis of this movie, and it's like the most cringiest parts, especially when you grow up. Because I'm like, man, this is Anakin Hayden Christensen showing me how I need to speak to a woman. Like, this is great. When you get older, that's not working. You're not going to go up to a girl and be like, I'm from Kansas. I really hate wind. I hate cornfields, sunflowers. They're very rough. They're coarse. Like, you can't do that. That doesn't work.
Although, can we just mention the absolute difference in the Riz that Anakin has from Clone Wars Anakin to Episode 2 Anakin? Clone Wars Anakin, he is unbelievable when he flirts to get his way with different queens and princesses and whatever during Clone Wars. And then we got those corny lines in Episode 2. So that's unbelievable difference.
Yeah. And it's it kind of makes me laugh, because it's like the way Obi-Wan tells Quinlan in Dark Disciple, like, listen, this person you're going to try to partner up with, you kind of want to flirt with her a little bit. That's what she likes. That kind of, it's funny how these Jedi kind of have like a way of words, but it's like not the best, but the Clone Wars era Riz for say, yes, it works.
It's unreal, isn't it? So.
Oh, but hey, is there anything that you could bring to the table for show and tell today?
Wow. You know me, but I've got a plethora of Star Wars collections behind me. Anything from figures to helmets to some statues to lightsabers. there's always, I mean, it's become my favorite helmet because even though Vader's my absolute favorite character, and you can see that just behind my head there, Vader's one, but probably my favorite helmet is the one that's permanently obscured by my big fat head whenever I do recordings now. So I'm going to get my ass out of the way so we can see it, and I'll pick it up and bring it over as well.
Sweet. Oh yeah.
Good old. Let me get right in the camera. The Captain Rex Black Series helmet.
So clean.
Absolute beast. I mean, even down to like the scoring across the sides of it and stuff, and like, you know, he's been shot and stuff, and then the markings for battles and droids that he's taken out and stuff. I do absolutely love this thing. I mean, behind me there's like there's Vader. There's the Phase 2 Clone Trooper, the Mandalorian. I've got Bo-Katan. There's Boba Fett back there as well. But yeah, the fact I love getting to stare at this bad boy completely.
It's so nice, and I've never seen it
as well.
I was gonna say it looks huge.
I mean, I can't because my headphones have got on, but yeah, this and the Phase 2 Clone Trooper helmet are absolutely massive. Like the Mandalorian one and the Bo-Katan one fit perfectly. They're nice, snug ones, but these two are huge. So I don't know whether like Jango Fett had a massive head or something, but
right.
But yeah.
Does your so I haven't seen this in person, this Captain Rex, and so I feel like it's massively detailed.
Yeah, it is pretty good, to be fair. Even down to like the very back.
Wow, yeah, that's is it. So which Boba Fett one do you have? Is it the re-armored or is it the?
Yeah, it is the re-armored like Mandalorian one. We haven't got the Empire Strikes Back one. That is on the list to get, to be fair.
Yes.
But yeah, it's the redone one.
Oh yeah.
Just something else cool I wanted to show you. This is technically my wife's. I got it for her recently as an anniversary present, but it's worth showing.
This is a good one.
I got her a couple of signed Pop Funkos for our anniversary. I got her Lord of the Ring ones because she loves Lord of the Rings. But two different ones I got. This one she actually loved the most out of all three. But a Jeremy Bulloch signed Boba Fett Pop Funko. She absolutely loves Boba Fett. It's her favorite character, and she for a long time has wanted a Jeremy Bulloch signed item. So I managed to get my hands on that for her.
Man,
so she absolutely loved that. And then the one I thought she would love the most, but it turns out she didn't. No, but she obviously still loves it. But a Ewan McGregor signed Pop Funko.
Dude, that's just nuts.
So yeah, a couple of cool things that have recently been. It sits, even though she has got like, because I'm all like the Star Wars and a little bit Marvel with my collection, and she's all. She's like Boba and Jango Fett, and then Assassin's Creed is like her collection. So she's got a little Boba and Jango bit in her collection. But then, like, for some reason, half of her stuff sits in my collection as well. So, like, the Boba Fett helmet is technically hers. And then, yeah, the signed pops are hers, but they kind of sit in my bit as well.
Yeah, just a little sprinkle in the collection, especially on the Star Wars side.
Yeah, in terms of like all-out favorites as well, just because I love showing it off, but because he's my favorite clone of all. But little fives.
Oh yes,
yeah, little fives Black Series figure that came out. I mean, it's nothing special, it's nothing spectacular, but it's fives, and I wanted that figure for so long.
And it's special to you.
Yeah, never thought I was going to get it. And then managed to get it. So he sits up there quite proudly, along with the rest of. I love the 501st. They're by far my favorite clones. Yeah. So as you can see, just straight above my head there's a bunch of the vintage collection figures. So there's like Fives, Echo, Rex, Havoc, a couple of others up there as well. And then obviously I've got the boys up here. So there's like Fives, Jesse, Standard Trooper, Havoc, Jet Trooper. And then Echo at the end there. And then the Koto Bakia 501st statue, which I absolutely fucking love as well, to be fair.
I love the stance of it.
So yeah, they all sit up there. Nice and proudly.
Yeah, they overlook your collection.
Yeah, they pretty much do, to be fair. They sort of smack bang in the center.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I love that, man. That's awesome. I always feel like, everyone who we have on, of course, we do a show and tell little bit to where, we can show off the collection, talk about something, the story behind obtaining this item in your collection. And everyone's collection is different. No one remotely has the same. We may have some of the same things, but not exactly the same. But it's always cool to, hear about the different things we all go through, what makes, like, especially with the fives, Black Series you have, you're like, oh, it's nothing too special, but to you it's special. So that's always the best part. But
yeah, collecting's always been an interesting one for me, because I didn't really start collecting until about 2015, something like that. And then for about 3 or 4 years, I went hell for leather. Like every spare penny I had went on collecting, to the point where, like, my partner at the time, like, if I'd see something up for sale, I'm like, because I joined quite a few collecting groups and stuff like that. Like, there's some big Facebook collecting groups in the UK, including one of the biggest collector groups in Europe and stuff like that. And you can get stuff that other people have had and want to pass on or don't want anymore and sell. You can obviously normally get it cheaper than when it first comes out and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I was getting to the point where if I'd see something up for sale and I wanted it, I'd say to my partner, I'm like, oh, just lend me some money to the end of the month just so I can get it. And I had a collection. I think in about 3 or 4 years, I amassed a collection that was worth about 10 to 15,000.
Holy shit!
That would be pounds, so probably closer to like 20K in dollars. And it
damn.
was massive. So I had like a Vader focus as well. So I had loads of specific Vader stuff, but then I had like, stormtroopers and first order troopers, and I had Jedi, and I had Sith, and I had legend stuff and vehicles all over the place, and a few lightsabers. And well, actually, there was one good thing. When he said show and tell, that I was going to show you, I'll grab it in a minute. And I got some custom bits done as well.
Sweet,
like,
yeah.
There were some funny bits where I had like they were like vintage collection style bits, so like these figures up in the packages up here, but it was like the burnt corpses of Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru and just stuff like that you see that's a bit comedic in a way. And then there were like the vintage collection ones that it just said, the card backs just said the dark side of the Force and the Force, and they're empty bubbles. There's nothing in them, and it's just the pictures, obviously, on the back of the Force, because it's just a bit fun stuff.
Right, yeah.
But then it got to a point where it was getting too much. I was getting overwhelmed by collecting, and I was just getting a bit too much into it. Like I said, every penny was going on it, and so I made a snap decision one day that I would pretty much sell everything that I had, because it was just either, if it was still there, I was just going to get tempted to just going on. So I sold pretty much everything I had, apart from a couple of bits that I wanted to keep, like some lightsabers, and then bits that were so common that pretty much everyone would have them. And then slowly I sort of started to get back into it, not over the top, but just adding bits here and there. To a point where everything that's behind me now I have, and it's more of an acceptable level, and I don't really have room to add anything else. That kind of stops me automatically from adding to it. But yeah, in terms of like collecting, I got seriously so into it, and I was loving having it all. I mean, and I've still got some pictures somewhere, I think in one of my libraries, of all the stuff I had and stuff like that. And I had the most amazing like Vader focus, and the most amazing like 501st focus, and stuff like that. And I absolutely loved it. But there's one custom bit I was going to show you actually, which is like the vintage collection figures. I used to have every single Anakin or Vader one, but again, I sold them off when I was doing it, and some of them wish I hadn't, because I've got like only 2 or 3 missing now, and they're super expensive to get hold of again. So essentially, like the episode 3 versions of Anakin and Vader, they're like really expensive now and hard to get hold of. Especially since Hayden Christensen has started coming back into like Comic Cons and touring and stuff like that, so people get them and get into signs, so they then don't sell them as much. But Rogue One, when Rogue One came out, it took them about 4 years to release a Vader version from Rogue One. So I had a custom one made because I was like, I've got all the vintage collection Vader figures and Anakin figures, but there's no Rogue One. So I got my own custom one made.
Oh shit.
So basically I got to it was basically one of them. They obviously did release like a Vader figure, but it was in like the basic line of figures. So I basically picked that figure and got it put into the bubble. So I picked the card back, and I got to pick the name that was put on there as well. So I picked obviously the hallway scene where he just illuminated in the dark by his lightsaber. And then, so this is it here, if I can get it away from the light.
Holy shit, dude.
So
that's fucking badass.
So yeah, I got to pick obviously the picture, and the name across here, it says Darth Vader, and then in brackets, Destroyer of Rebels.
Oh, dude.
So, because if I compare that side by side with the one they then did release, I think mine's actually better.
I was gonna say I've never seen the Rogue One version.
If I can find where the hell it is now. No, here we go.
Oh, 100%. Very, very cool. I love how they have the blaster deflect effect in the background, but no, dude, they're right all day.
The bloody reflection is terrible in here. You see what I mean?
Man.
Like,
Yeah, yours
the
is better by miles.
So yeah, getting mine done. And what was interesting is I actually sold this off when I sold all of my stuff. And the guy that I sold it to, he unfortunately he's one of the biggest collectors in one of our groups, and he unfortunately passed away. And a couple of the big admins in our Star Wars group got asked by his family to go and help sort through his collection and sell bits off to to put towards money for his son for the future and stuff. And I noticed that they had that Rogue One, so I asked if I could buy it back, and they were like, "Yeah, of course." I was like, so I said to them, "I was like, that was mine originally. I had it custom made for me. I sold it off, and then so I was like, if you're going to sell it on, can I get first dibs on it before anyone else? Because I want that back. It's mine." And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I bought it back for them. Paid a little bit extra because, like I said, they were putting it all towards his son for the future. But I got my Rogue One Vader back, so it's back where it belongs technically.
Wow, yeah, that's very unfortunate, but I mean, sometimes things come back, whether it's destined or not, and it seemed like that was destined to be back with you again. Wow, but dude, that's fucking awesome. You need to take a picture of that and post that on your Instagram or something, because that thing you got to show that one off, bro.
Yeah, it's a nice one. I did have a custom episode 7 one done as well, because obviously the only time we see Vader in episode 7 is actually the burnt mask.
Yeah.
And I think it was with the Black Series Kylo Ren deluxe figure. They had a little burnt Vader helmet that came with it as part of it. And so I just basically, so I've got it actually next to my Vader helmet over there, but the little helmet itself. But in terms of the custom I had made, so the card back I just had, it was just the melted helmet from the scene in episode 7. And then it was just it just said burnt Vader helmet. Oh, there's the title, and I had the little prop helmet stuck in the bubble. So to go with my Vader focus. So I had literally all the way up to episode 7, I had a Vader for every film and every episode.
Wow. Damn, dude. That's awesome. I still can't stop thinking. Let me see the Rogue One Vader again one more time. You have it right there on the desk? Yeah, dude. Everyone who is able to watch and view this episode on YouTube, you are very lucky. And if you're listening to this on anything else, make sure you come back to YouTube at some point and look at this. I'll tag it down in the description. But man, that thing is beautiful, bro.
Thanks. Yeah, I do like that one.
Damn. Well, my thing is I've actually been kind of getting into the Star Wars Chrome Tops cards, little training cards. So nice. I ended up pulling. I have one here that's to the side. I actually had bought from a good friend of mine, and but hopefully the light doesn't mess this up too much. But this is a Galactic Gear Boba Fett, and you can kind of tell it has the little shine to it. They all do, but yeah, this one is really cool. And you get one per, basically one per pack essentially, and that was the one. And you get 4 refractors, which are the really metallic ones. And I ended up pulling a Thrawn.
Ooh, hello.
And I was like, nice.
So
yeah, gotta love that. And then
would you prefer that if that was is the Ahsoka Thrawn, or would you prefer it if it was the cartoon Rebels Thrawn on there?
That's a great question, because Thrawn, I feel like I just love live action. I love live action, but I feel like in Star Wars recently, the storytelling is just phenomenal in animation. So it's kind of a toss up. And I didn't like Rebels a lot at first. I've actually only seen it through twice, but Thrawn in Rebels was very, very mysterious. And that being my first introduction to him, I'm kind of like, oh, okay. But bringing him to live action, that's when I'm like, okay, I love Thrawn. But like the Funko Pop I passed on the live action Thrawn for the Ahsoka wave, but I have the Rebels Thrawn, and it is the Target exclusive remake. It's not the 2017 exclusive, because that thing, yeah. But I do love Lars Mikkelsen. I think it's really, really cool that I ended up getting the live action one. So, but
Nice.
I mean, if I had either or, I would be cool with it. And I do think that they have a because there's a Zeb. I pulled a Zeb card, so there obviously is some animated characters. So if I had the refractor animated Thrawn, I'd be just as happy.
Nice, yeah.
And since you showed your favorite clone, I got to show my favorite clone. And this is actually a Rise of Palpatine. This is a little set. You can kind of collect them all, and it makes the basically the Rise of Palpatine. And of course, I got Order 66, and it is Commander Cody. And
nice. That looks beautiful.
Yeah, this one, it's awesome. And I love the lightning. You know, there's lots
of the lightning with the Palpatine bit as well.
Yeah, it's just awesome. It's pretty much anything with lightning for me is awesome. It's like my favorite Sith power. And also too, I just love thunderstorms. We have them all the time in Kansas, especially in the summertime. So, but then of course I had to buy this one.
Of course, Mr. Voss. Yeah.
My guy, Quinlan Voss. And it's awesome. You know, it's kind of like a throwback to your original cards where it shows, you know, where they're from, their species, you know, what they do, what they're affiliated with. But yeah, had to show this one off. But yeah, those are it's so crazy because here's just some cards right here, and it's just nuts. Like there's so many just so many different ones. Like, and this one was cool. I got to show this one, the Captain Enoch.
Oh yes, nice.
But yeah, they look really cool.
Yeah, I debated whether to get the Black Series figure for Captain Enoch or not because it looks cool with the gold melted into the armor and stuff, but a little bit outside of what I've normally got behind me, so I decided not to. But I was like, still looking at it, it's quite cool.
Yeah, do you think Black Series will make a helmet for him?
I don't see why not. I mean, they have a horrible thing there about delaying helmets so much, as we have experienced.
Oh yeah,
with the Stranger Khamir's helmet from the Acolyte, which I've ended up ordering in the end, so I will get it next year. But yeah, it would be really cool, to be fair. I mean, some helmets they've made, and I'm like, why bother with that? Because like, who really wants that? Like, you know, random rebel pilots from the helmets. Stuff like that. I'm like, why have you bothered making some of those? Moff Gideon's helmet from season 3 of The Mandalorian comes out in November, I think. Like, who was asking for that? Even if it kind of looks a little bit cool with like the almost like Maul DeLorean horns on the top of it and stuff.
Yeah,
it looks nice, but I wouldn't really expect there to be like high demand for it. Surprised they never did like a Captain Phasma helmet. I think that probably would have sold decently at the time. But yeah, so I think if they made one of those, it would sell pretty well. I think if they don't do it by the end of next year, they won't. Unless they wait because we've got season 2 of Ahsoka coming out in like 2026, something like that. There's still time for them to do one. To be fair, if they're pacing their time and taking their time doing it. So,
well, and that's what I was thinking too, because like they actually released a new original trilogy Boba Fett Black Series helmet. And
yes,
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I had no idea that was coming until I was at GameStop a few weeks ago.
The original one was so rare to get hold of the original one, or it was expensive to get hold of one anyway.
Yeah.
The re-release, it would be good to get hands on one of those, to be fair, because there's nothing wrong with the repainted Mandalorian one, but it's a slightly darker green. It doesn't have the wear and tear of the original, or just the classic Fett looking away, isn't it? So
yeah, and that, like, I have the re-armored red above me, but I had to grab it, you know, at the time. I was just like, okay, Boba Fett. I'm a huge Boba Fett fan. I have to have it. But seeing that the new release of the Boba Fett, I was like, man. And on top of that, they have the Darth Revan as well. And that one was kind of cool. I actually watched a review on it. It's Revan's helmet and then like the cloth hood piece. But if you pull the hood back, the back of it is just a normal Mandalorian sculpt. So they kind of they kind of just reused it, but in a way, you're not just gonna wear the helmet with it down. So um, it's kind of cool. But when you brought up the Moff Gideon, do you think they're selling it because he's not done yet? Are we gonna see him again?
Oh,
I don't want to see
I
him
don't know.
again. I
No,
love
I don't.
Giancarlo Esposito, but
You
you got to put an
you
end
can't
to it.
just keep killing people off or pretending they're killed off and then bringing them back. So he should be done. I don't see the need, because you built up and you wanted someone in that gap before you brought back Thrawn, and now you have brought back Thrawn.
Right.
So you don't need a power struggle between Gideon and Thrawn going on with the Empire remnants and the Shadow Council. So just let Gideon have served his purpose now, and let's move on to Thrawn. So
Yeah, that would be cool. Or have you ever seen the theories that like one of his clones, my clones, has made a grand escape, and we'll see him and basically just a reincarnated Moff Gideon? What do you think about that?
well, I heard. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of theories, isn't there? As there always is, to be fair. But yeah, one of the big theories was that the one that died in Mandalorian season 3 was one of the clones, and that the real one just stayed away from that battle and is still out there somewhere. So I really hope not. I mean, the idea of him sort of cultivating his own force sensitive clones was not a great idea in the first place. I don't think. I didn't really enjoy that idea. So just let them be done with it, and just let them move on now. Mandalorian Grogu films coming up. Hopefully, I really, fingers crossed, we still get season 4. I don't want this to be. Although there's been rumors going around this week that the Mandalorian Grogu thing is going to be a trilogy of films, but again, that doesn't make sense with the fact that this whole thing with Ahsoka season 2 is, and then we've got Skeleton Crew in December. This whole thing is moving towards the Dave Filoni Thrawn film. Where it's essentially the Star Wars version of Endgame, where they all come together to battle Thrawn. So you don't need to prolong this when they've already sort of tried to map out their road to that event.
Yeah.
With Mando and Grogu film. If they do Mando season 4, I would not object to that. But you've got Ahsoka season 2 coming up. We've got Skeleton Crew that's going to feed into it. It's obviously unlikely we're going to get Boba Fett season 2 or anything like that. So just let everything tie in nicely together. Bring them all together. You don't need to go, oh, let's just make money for the head of it by turning the Mando Grogu thing into a trilogy of films.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't do a season 4 and you wanted to do a second film, and the third film of the trilogy being the Thrawn Dave Filoni film, Heir to the Empire, that would be fine. I think I could live with that. But at the same point, it just feels like if they're going to extend the amount of films they're doing, they're just doing it for the sake of, they know it's going to make money, because Mando and Grogu are favorites. So
yeah, oh yeah, you can't deny it. I got Grogu tattooed right here. This was
nice.
supposed to be a Rebels logo actually, and then last second I changed it and got the Grogu instead. But I love everything about it, man. I think Disney is still held together because of the Mandalorian in its series. I loved Book of Boba Fett. I really enjoyed Ahsoka as well. I didn't think, since not being the biggest Rebels fan, kind of going into Ahsoka, I was just kind of like, okay, let's get this. I'm ready. Let's see if this can kind of change my view. I love Ahsoka now, so it's cool. I think, especially with how they get to the Filoni endgame, we need more people. It seems like Thrawn has finally got the Night Mothers to Dathomir. When we see at the end of Ahsoka, which even that I was pissed seeing that, because I love Dathomir. I love the spooky, the scary. It's Halloween season now. It's perfect. But I want more, and I know we're not going to have any story with Dathomir in live action just from that ending anytime soon, and they haven't even started filming yet. So I'm still just like, God damn it, I need that soon. So I don't know. I'm super excited. But there's also news too with Cal Kestis making his live action appearance. Do we think? And actually, before we get into this, everyone watching, me and Andy are going to collab on the Skeleton Crew that comes out December 3rd, and we're going to kind of review those, talk about it, and hopefully we like it a lot. So it looks very interesting. So hopefully, if you guys are enjoying this episode and the conversation we're having here, come check us out in a couple months talking about the Skeleton Crew. So
yeah, excited to do that with you, buddy.
Yeah, of course. And that I just think it's going to be one of those good things that ties into the Mandalorian verse, Mandoverse, and I think it has a lot of potential. It looks kind of, Goonies, Stranger Thing esque, how everyone's saying. So, and I love the Goonies, I love Stranger Things, and I love Star Wars. So, let's do it. But do you think Cal Kestis is going to make his appearance in the Skeleton Crew? Do you think it's going to be in Ahsoka? Where do you think Cal comes in?
It's an interesting one because they've obviously confirmed they're making a third game in the Cal Kestis series. So we've had Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, and the third game they've announced is going to be the final game. I always said that we always pretty much predicted there was going to be a third game. It was going to be a trilogy of games. Because what was it? The first game was set like 5 years after Episode 3. This was set another sort of 3 years on from that. So we're sort of up to the round about the time of where the Kenobi series takes place. So you're sort of like halfway between Episode 3 and 4 of where they're at sort of now. So I find it hard for them to fit him into anything in the Mandalorian era without having completed the games first. Because they're not going to do all of a sudden do a 15-year jump to, say, post Episode 6 and the game fit in sort of between the time of Episode 6 and where Mando starts to sort of fill in this character and then having come into live action. It's still going to be somewhere between where the last game finished and where Episode 4 begins, I feel anyway, is where they're going to fit that third game in. So I find it hard to believe they're going to shoo him into a live action appearance that's 20 years after his game appearances without having completed the trilogy of games first. Because otherwise, you're just sort of guaranteeing that he makes it through that third game before it's even come out.
Yeah.
Or you're guaranteeing anyone else that may be with him survives and makes it through, which is never a good thing for me, that you're guaranteeing someone's survival and letting the audience know that before you've completed his own story in his own trilogy.
Absolutely.
So I find it hard to think that he is going to appear. I would love it if he did.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love it if he popped up in Skeleton Crew somewhere, even if it was just like an episode cameo where they help him out or something like that. But I still find it hard to believe that we will get a live action Cal Kestis before the third game is done. And even then, I still think they wait a year or two until after that game's come out to let people catch up with the story and play the game before they then do it. So I still don't think, I think we will get a live action Cal Kestis at some point. I don't think it's going to be for another 3 or 4 years though.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, and that's kind of how you have to look at it too, especially with they want to make money off these games as well. They want people to, actually play the games, not wait to see a walkthrough on YouTube and just see how the story concludes. But at the same time, they want to milk money out of these games, and especially the last one. Yeah, they're gonna want to have the story completed for that timeline with Cal Kestis. But the only other thing I was kind of thinking of is in which I personally don't really want a Kenobi season 2, but if they did, I wouldn't be too mad. But I think the Kenobi series is kind of good where it sits. But if they were to make a season 2, they could definitely bring Cal Kestis in. Maybe him and Kenobi have some sort of connection, and that's just where we see him. And especially if like you mentioned, the series of events, how it's leading up 3 years later after Jedi Survivor, this is the time of the Kenobi series. So this could be a good time to kind of, bring him in and not really have like that Jedi Nuri or Nari that, showed up and was like, "You're Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, what happened to you?" And he's like, "Dude, you need to go away. Like, you need to go very far away from here. You don't know who I am." Like, I feel like maybe if they brought in a Jedi that we know, that could be really cool. And I don't know. There's so many holes right now between episode 3 and 4. We can get a story about the path that I've been praying for. We have Asajj Ventress, Bad Batch wrapped up, and there's just, there's still clones during this era. Cal Kestis is in his prime during this era, and it's so weird to think about this and knowing that the Mandalorian, like the Mandoverse, is still at least over a decade out the way from these times. So that does kind of brighten the question for me, because it just seems like everyone's talking, Cal Kestis and the Skeleton Crew, and it's like, well, why? Kind of.
Yeah.
It's I want to see what happens with the game first, obviously. But so that's a good point you bring up.
It was just when you initially mentioned me, went, "Oh, rumor out today, Cal Kestis could be appearing in Skeleton Crew, or that he's going to be in a project that's coming out soon. My initial reaction is like, yeah, cool, definitely up for seeing Cal Kestis live action. Definitely need that at some point, and absolutely convinced we will get it at some point. But yeah, then the more I thought about it, I was like, it doesn't make sense to do it right now because the time frame just doesn't unfortunately work right now. So it will happen. I just think it's going to be a future project.
Yeah,
like
and especially
3 or 4 years in the future.
Yeah, that's a good window because you got to let the game marinate, and I don't even know if they're working on the third game right now, right?
I mean, they've confirmed they're doing a third game. I don't even know if it has started production or development or what as of yet. So I think they've obviously had an idea of what they're going to do. Whether I don't know if they've officially started anything yet.
Okay, that makes sense because we have a special guest. It's not my baby, but it's my cat. This is Lando. Everybody viewing on YouTube, if you were to write your own Star Wars short, this is a 15-minute episode. It's animated, and it can be in any time era. Let's say there's a new Tales series. Pick the Tales of the series. What episode, if you were to write one of the 6? Very, very shitty question, but it was one I wanted to ask you. What would yours be about?
I mean, immediately my mind goes to doing a Tales of the Sith episode. Tales of the Jedi was great. Tales of the Empire was a little bit disappointing for me. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that they do 2 different ones or 2 more in the future where we do get Tales of the Sith and we get Tales of the Bounty Hunters. Yes. Those are the 2 that I'm hoping that we do get. But I would immediately go to a Tales of the Sith episode, and it would be like a young Palpatine. That's where I would go straight away. So maybe, I mean, the disappointment with the Acolyte being cancelled, because love it or hate it, if you're trying to tell a story, you've got to give it the time to tell the story. So season 1 for a lot of people was either not great or mediocre, but it could be elevated by a great season 2 where they focused on the Sith. They dropped the whole Plagueis cameo, and they could have developed that in season 2. Whilst it's canon that Plagueis was Palpatine's master, the Plagueis novel is not canon anymore, so a lot of that doesn't really count. But the story in there is great, and so therefore, if you're going to remake the sort of the Plagueis Palpatine story, throw a little bit of a bone out there by like how Plagueis meets Palpatine and goes through the stages of making him his apprentice. I would prefer like a film or TV series to show that, or like a proper long one, rather than a Tales of the Sith. But if Disney went, we're not going to do that, we'd only do it in this way. Okay, cool. So let's 3 episodes where Plagueis, or we meet Palpatine when he's younger before he meets Plagueis. Then episode 2, Plagueis meets Palpatine. Episode 3, he becomes his apprentice and goes on from there. Because I'm desperate for a young Palpatine series or show or anything for when he first becomes a Sith apprentice. I need that in my life so much, and I've already got the perfect casting in terms of a live action one anyway. But Tom Hiddleston as a young Palpatine, to me, works brilliantly. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe even Tom himself is maybe starting to get that age where he's maybe a bit too old to play a young Palpatine, but I thought he would have been perfect for a young Palpatine anyway. Tales of the Sith, I would go for 3 episodes of Plagueis finding or Palpatine and making him his apprentice and just setting up that story for the future. That's where I would go.
Hell yeah, dude, that's so cool because it's like I said, it's a shitty question because it's like, okay, what would I write off the top of my head? And I feel like those are some of the best because you always think of the thing that you want to happen most, and especially with, the Acolyte being canceled, it's so dumb because I always make the comparison like Breaking Bad, like season 1, whatever, like where's the meth, where's the teacher that breaks bad, like I want to see all of it now, but it sets it up. Season 2 through 5 is some of the best parts. This is all the meat and potatoes that of the series. You gotta let that first season kind of make the direction. That's basically what pilot episodes. It's just kind of to basically set the tone. And I feel like the Acolyte was that. This is a chance where we can focus on, and even just how it ends. Chimere and Osha just holding hands, staring off into the horizon. That's a Star Wars thing. It happens. We stare off into horizons. It's just one of those things where it's still tying. It's Star Wars, and we have one of the biggest characters in all of Star Wars that we haven't even seen in live action ever finally make his appearance, and we want to cancel it. But the rage bait everyone has for it, I feel like it's just so weird how we can't branch off of that. Like, everyone was so mad when Endara died in the first 5 minutes, and it's like, well, maybe she wasn't supposed to be this big character. Even look in the trailer, you barely see much of Carrie Ann Moss, and it's Soul, Kelnaka. We barely see Kelnaka, until the flashback episode. So were these characters meant to be the main characters? Jecki, Yord, they all go right away, the more I think about it. So it's just like, maybe these were just to show what the Jedi were like at this time. And now let's see Plagueis behind the scenes. Let's see how this leads up to maybe if he's teaching Chimere. And what I was hoping was Palpatine is Chimere's replacement. That's how I wanted to have this all happen. So, I mean, it is what it is. Maybe things can come back to light and see. But yeah, I would love to see a young Palpatine, and I think that's what we would have gotten the Acolyte. But if we can at least get something, Tales of the Sith, which I feel like should be the next installment of the Tales series, I think that would be awesome to see that. Yeah. With all that wrapped up for a good episode 1 of season 1, let everyone know where they can find you.
Well, you can find the Galactic Core podcast, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. I am currently in the middle of a little bit of a hiatus because, as we've discussed a few times on the show, we've both had children recently. Brandon's been able to jump on. I've taken a little bit longer off. So I will be returning in the next sort of month or so, but a little bit of a hiatus right now. But you can still find all my episodes online. Make sure you jump on there, get a follow. And as Brandon said, we're going to be collaborating for all of the Skeleton Crew. So make sure you're going to be tuning in for that. I just want to finish with 2 quick things, if I can.
Yes.
Not to hijack. First of all, everyone, go and get your Clan Brandolorian merch. Make sure you're supporting your favorite podcast. It's really important to all of them that you do get to go and do that. I've been purchasing a few of my favorite shows merch recently, so make sure you get out there for Brandon, support Clan Brandolorian, and get some merch. I have a little present for you that I'm going to be sending you soon. I thought about just sending this on the fly and not telling you, but I thought since I was popping on the show, it'd be the perfect time to show you. So I really hope you don't have this. So,
okay, let's see.
A Emperor Palpatine Pop Funko that is based off the comics.
I have it.
Fuck. Motherfucker. Right, you're not getting a present. Damn it! I was like, slick for them.
I was like, wait. Ah, shit, I have it. Yep. I see it.
Well, yeah. That was me thinking I was being slick because I didn't think you had that one.
I was gonna say the thought. I love it, bro. I appreciate that. Love you so much. But I will say mine has a Target exclusive sticker on it, not the Funko sticker. So that is the difference there.
Well, maybe I'll still send it anyway because I got it for you originally. So, but it was just because it was one of the Return of the Jedi special ones, and I thought you're not too much of a comic book person, so I thought you may not have that one. So that's why I was like, oh, I'll get that one because I saw it online and I managed to get a good deal on it. So,
damn. Well, dude, I appreciate that. Damn it, love you, bro.
I'm just going to rub it in now that I've got the special edition Ponkrell Captain Rex battle from the Clone Wars Pop Funko on the way, and I know that you don't have that, so I'm just going to put that one in there instead.
I don't. I have all my 2-packs right here, and there's a spot missing for that. So I don't know. I may or may not grab it in the future. I couldn't have had anyone else join me for episode 1. Make sure you guys go follow Andy. Yes, the merch is up. We'll make more in the future, but as always, please go follow Andy at the Galactic Core Podcast. Anywhere you can find your podcasts, anything from YouTube to Apple to Spotify, go check them out. Instagram as well. and all of the places. If you can just Google the Galactic Core Podcast, go follow every place you can. But as always, guys, thank you for joining. Clan Brandolorian, we're out.